morning. Mr. Chancellor, Dr. Roberta Bondar is with us today to receive the degree, a Doctor of Law, honoris causa. Most of us know Dr. Bondar from her work, from her career as an astronaut and her contributions to NASA, but her life's work goes well beyond these accomplishments. 5 main interests are apparent: adaptation to life in space and subsequent recovery on Earth, medicine, especially neurology and neuro-ophthalmology, photography, the environment, and education. All have been interconnected in her life's endeavors. After completing her MSc and PhD degrees in pathology and neurobiology, Dr. Bondar obtained her MD degree from McMaster University and was admitted as a Fellow of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada in neurology. Shortly after this, she became a member of the first group of Canadians selected for astronaut training. These 2 aspects of her life dovetailed most notably on the Space Shuttle Discovery in 1992, where she participated in numerous experiments, and for the subsequent 10 years as a head of a NASA International Space Medicine Research Team. Her work on the role of the autonomic nervous system in recovery from spaceflight helps us understand the compensatory mechanisms brought on by physiological stresses associated with space travel, and also provides insight into the problems of cerebral blood flow faced by individuals afflicted by disorders such as stroke here on Earth. Dr. Bondar also has a long-standing interest in photography, specifically in the photography of natural environments. She studied this subject at the Brooks Institute of Photography in Santa Barbara, California, and has published 4 books, soon to be 5, of her pictures from Earth and space. Many solo exhibitions of her work have been presented in numerous art galleries across Canada over the past 20 years. The overarching theme of her photography is the beauty of the natural environment and the pressing need to preserve it. With respect to education, Dr. Bondar was Chancellor of Trent University for 2 terms from 2003 to 2009. During this period, she chaired a working group on environmental education that produced a report entitled "Shaping Our Schools, Shaping Our Future" for the Ontario Ministry of Education. The impact of this work is that all 32 recommendations in this paper were accepted and have led to improving education on the environment for elementary and high school students. Dr. Bondar brought her interests in photography, education, and environmental issues together again in 2009 when she established the Roberta Bondar Foundation. This not-for-profit foundation has produced a traveling exhibition of photographs that bring an understanding of species diversity, ecosystem structure and function, beauty of these ecosystems, and their importance to human life. A second element, the Bondar Challenge, is a program that teaches individuals, including many children in summer camps and in school programs, the use of the camera as a tool to record current status of the natural environment and ultimately its change. The challenge began in Canada and has since been taken internationally. Dr. Bondar has been recognized with the NASA Spaceflight Medal, inducted into the Canadian Medical Hall of Fame and into the International Women's Forum Hall of Fame for her pioneering research in space medicine. She is an officer of the Order of Canada, has been appointed to the Order of Ontario, and is a Fellow of the Royal Society of Canada. She also received her own star on Canada's Walk of Fame in 2011. Dr. Bondar is a model to all of us, but especially to today's graduating students, for developing and maintaining diverse interests, interweaving these interests into her life's work, performing this work at an extremely high level, making it accessible to all individuals, and advocating for social responsibility. And so, Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to present Roberta Bondar to receive at your hands the degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
Roberta Bondar, I admit you to the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, and grant you all the rights, privileges, and insignia appertaining thereto. Congratulations, Dr. Bondar.
Mr. Chancellor, I take the pleasure in calling on Dr. Bondar to deliver the convocation address.
Mr. President, Chancellor, Board Chair, distinguished platform guests, what a great crowd, graduates. You look beautiful. And my fellow Earthlings, welcome. It is indeed my pleasure to be here today. I think of Convocation as a time when we show our respect for the educational institution that we really are very fortunate to have in this country. I look at you all today, and when I was coming in, I was just so proud of all of you. You're standing there like just right on the edge of that launch platform. Trust me, I know how that feels. You know, you have those butterflies and you have those great visions out there and things that you want to do and like, let's get this over with, man, I'm just ready to move on. And for those of us on the stage, we are so proud of you. And we think about all the things that you're going to be able to do when we're not going to be around to be able to do them ourselves. We think about the reach that you'll have into future generations, and we are just so touched and so admiring of your abilities and the opportunities that lie ahead for each and every one of you. For the families, I want to say congratulations. And I know that you are just beaming with so much pride today in your offspring or in your relative. It is a most wonderful time to remember forever. Now, you may not remember my talk, but you might remember that I was here. You might remember some of the things that are happening because there's so much emotion involved today. From the time that a person enters a university setting, it is the beginning of a voyage, and you're not quite sure what island you're going to reach or what shoreline you're going to see, but you're guaranteed an adventure. And it's all those adventures you have in trying to get to some place that makes you strong and makes you who you are. All the things that you might consider negative forces are forces. They're things that shape us. And I stand here today because of people who are your predecessors. When I look back on my own career, and you heard a little bit about it in the opening, and so was, my mother would always have been proud to hear all the things that I've done. Someday when I hear these again, I'll be very happy that someone reminds me of what I've done. So it's a great reminder for all of us that as an event like this, we have time to reflect a little bit, if we can get that headspace around it, to what we really have accomplished. I sometimes think about it when I'm standing up and speaking to anybody, whether it's students or adults or kids in kindergarten, about the joy of life that we all should have. Because as far as I know, this is it. We've got a great opportunity here to interact with the world. When I look at the kinds of studies that you've had, whether it's in applied health sciences or mathematics or science itself, these are keys to the universe. They're keys to helping all of us exist better on this planet, whether it's today, 10 years from now, or 100 years from now. You make sure that your legacy is one of commitment to society. And we saw today shining examples of this, where people are leaders, where people go out and move beyond what it is they are traditionally expected to do, but know in their hearts that there is more to do beyond that particular narrowly defined role. When I start thinking about some of the kind of neat connections I have with all of you, I'm not going to try to be too maudlin, but I do want to recognize my cousin Adrian Bondar is here with me today because we share another cousin who had his first degree in mathematics. Now, I'm not saying any of you are like my cousin Jim. He would go around and he liked to be known as James Bondar. So he'd introduce himself as, I'm James Bondar. He was so far removed from James Bond that we couldn't believe he was saying this. But he got his degree, his bachelor's degree in mathematics, and then he did a PhD in statistics, and I think he even developed something like the Bondarian. I have no idea what that means. But he would say to me, you know, he said, how much are you expecting to get from this grant you're writing to the Medical Research Council of Canada? And I would tell him, and he says, eh. And I said, well, what about you? He says, oh, I don't know. He said, maybe $25. I said, what do you mean you're writing a grant for $25? He says, I just need pencils and a pad of paper. Everything was in his head. He was creating new things, and I was staggered by this. Apparently in high school, he used to go around with calipers just to measure the exact distance he did. He walked every day in high school so he could calculate how much work he was doing. I think that's about all the exercise he ever got, was using his calipers, but I digress. I think about the things that happened to me in the space program, and people look at me and say, whoa, gosh, you were really lucky to be the first woman in Canada to go into space. And I'm saying, luck? Have you had a talk about luck? You guys talk about luck? I said one time when I was speaking to some people, you can create luck. And this woman took me to task afterwards, and she said, you cannot create luck. And I flipped a $20 bill on the floor. And I said, what happens if you pass that $20 bill? And she said, well, I'm pretty lucky. And I said, what if you don't pick it up? Are you still lucky? So the idea of luck is to being prepared to see what that luck is. To be prepared for that opportunity, because you just don't know when it's going to come. In 1983, when Canada had this big thing about getting astronauts to go into space, they had it in the newspaper, they had it on radio, they had it on television, and the one in the newspaper says, wanna be an astronaut, eh? Makes you sick. And so I was reading all this, and from the time I was a little girl and put plastic model rockets together, I wanted to go into space. I had this big vision of what's out there, what's there for me, what can I do, what can I see, how can I make things better? And I was in a family that loved volunteer work, whether it was in Girl Guides, at the Family Y, in church groups. We were all part of a bigger community. And so going to space was something I kept at the back of my mind, and I wanted to be prepared for it. So the Girl Guide motto was be prepared. And my dad always says, you gotta have that piece of paper. So I did. I have 4 university degrees, the ones that I've earned by studying the way you have. So it was 18 years of university without repeating a year. I have to add that. And so it was kind of a neat thing to be able to work very hard to put myself through school. But I knew that if I wanted to go into space, I needed to show people that I had the right qualifications. And not only did I have to show people I had the right qualifications, I had to walk the talk. I really wanted to show people that I was engaged in the community of Canada, in just not my local community, but in the community of the university, in the community that I was living in, and the community of the whole country as well as the world. I mean, just like, let's get global here and solve world peace while I'm at it, Roberta. So for me, going to university was, I had this sort of hazy destination, and I went out on my voyage, and I kind of went around and saw different islands. It was a great, great adventure. So in 1983, when they were selecting candidates, they kind of were, flipping through all these little applications. I think mine was the second one into Ottawa. The first one was a grandmother who submitted this thing, who was in her 80s, who had always wanted to go into space. So there were people ahead of me that I knew wanted to go into space, people behind me that I knew would want to go into space. But if they picked me, I would try to make it available to all. With all those university degrees I had, and of course I went to a medical school that really stressed interpersonal skills and communication, which is tremendously important for all of us in science or the allied health arts, or whatever we do, we have to be able to communicate to other people how we're feeling, what they should look out for, trying to make them feel better, trying to give them the facts without really burdening them with a lot of grief. All these kinds of things require very good skill sets that we have to keep practicing. So in 1983, when they did pick me, I was really affronted to see people say in the paper they got their token woman. Don't you hate token anything? None of us is ever a token anything. We are proud of our accomplishments, we are proud of what we do, and we accept these challenges and these opportunities because we are prepared. So if you don't think that luck is occurring outside, you are not looking hard enough. You're not looking wide enough. You're not diverse enough in your vision or your thinking. And I just want to close with just a couple of little personal reflections. When I'm asked about what I do now, I love that. What do you do now? What I've always done. I've tried to communicate how I see the world around me. And there is no question, seeing the Earth from space can be a dynamic change agent in a person's life. Now, people do look out the window, they can take pictures and they can talk about it, but you have to put this stuff in practice. There is no such thing as a hero who does not rejuvenate the society in which he or she lives in, not lived in, but lives in today. And for all of you, I hope that you take this to heart, because each and every person in this room, whether it's a graduate or one of their support systems who's here today, has the ability to change and make change for the better in a positive direction in someone else's life. What greater gift do we have as human beings on this planet than to help someone else, to reach beyond our maybe very narrow field of view, but to reach out and help someone else through this journey of life. Help them when they're in a life raft, when you're on a boat that's not sinking. To help people when they have lost their way and provide them with a compass. All those things, we all in this room, not just the graduates, have the ability to do. When I was in space and saw the Earth, I was impassioned. I saw a planet for the first time in my life, although I know it's a planet. We all know it's a planet. But when you see something in 3 dimensions that you've never seen before in 3 dimensions, and you make eye contact, it becomes reality. And it becomes, for me, something that I need to share. And that's what I'm trying to do now. So on my last note, I want to say for all of you in this room, especially the graduates, if you ever see me in an airport or on the street or anywhere, you come up to me, because I want to give you a Brock hug. Thank you so much for allowing me to take some of your time today and share some of my thoughts. I wish you all the best, nothing but the best. Good luck, and take it when you see it.